Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are. We've got a great crowd today. Hey, Mike, hey, Chuck, hopefully you guys can hear me all right. If a few people could just confirm that I'm coming across loud and clear, that'd be awesome. And you should see a slide up there that says Nadex Town Hall, 5th October 2018. Hey, Marion. Awesome, awesome. Well, we're going to get started here. Got great town hall lined up. I actually have been receiving a ton of questions into the town hall mailbox at Nadex here, and so we're going to try to cover as many of those as possible, as well as always, take your questions live. As we get going here, just a few things we're going to cover today. I'm going to give you an update on the Nadex Beta Mobile app. We're going to talk a little bit about, as you know, we like to do some trading concepts, something that's near and dear to my heart because I've been guilty of it way too many times to even admit, is what I call trading stupid. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but the bulk of this here we want really focused on your questions and answers and what you want to know from Nadex, questions you have, things you want me to cover in future town halls, things like that. So if you would, email townhall@nadex.com. We typically have several hundred people on these. And so the live questions, sometimes I can't get to nearly all of them in the half hour or so that we have. So without further ado, let me do a quick risk disclosure here, and we will get started. Hopefully you know that trading involves risk on Nadex or elsewhere. You need to make sure it's risk capital that you're using, right? If it's grocery money, you're never going to be successful. Unfortunately, we've seen that way too many times, and anybody that's been in the markets just knows that's the case. Has to be risk capital. Whatever we talk about today, I'm not going to give you any trading advice. You probably wouldn't want to take it anyway. But this is really for presentation purposes and educational purposes only, and really for you guys to have an open venue to share your thoughts with us. So let's get started on the Nadex beta. And actually what you'll see soon, it is now Nadex Go. We had been in beta for several months. The development was progressing very well. We want to remind everybody why we're really happy about this. It's built on what's called progressive web app technology, which allows a lot faster development cycle. It's much more responsive. When we do an update, add features, you don't have to worry about manually updating an app on your phone. It's not like what you have on a native app where you go to the App Store or where you go to like Google Play. Nope. Whenever you log in, you just save it to your home screen, and the different process depending on if you have an Android or iPhone. If you need help with that, just give us a shout and we're happy to help add it to your home screen. But this technology is really great, and it's really the future of all apps. And what I'm most proud of, and I mean, we have a great development team. We have great project management, but we couldn't do it without our members. All the people that have beta tested it for the last several months gave us feedback. We've got a lot of new features we're adding as well. I'm going to cover a couple of those in a minute, but we need your feedback. So right on the app, if you go to the account page, there's a place where you can hit feedback, and I'm going to show you where you can get that app if you don't have it yet in just a minute. But provide that feedback, suggestions you want to see. That's fantastic. So we talked last week a little bit about some recent feature additions. These, of course, came from feedback. And if you get tired of me saying feedback, then make sure you provide your feedback, even if it is Dan, stop saying feedback. Funding and withdrawing capability. So that was added. That was a big request from our members, as well as charts. Charts were by far the number one requested item as far as a feature on the new app. Development team worked their butts off, provided some great charts. We had excellent feedback on them. Was happy to see those launched a couple of weeks ago. The next, we're actually working on a ton of other items. There's some design things, make it a little nicer, visually appealing on the eyes. We're adding some functionality, but the one very big item that we've had requested is having your default settings transfer over from whether you have them in pure deal. So basically what I mean by default settings is if you normally trade 10 lots, right? You open up the order ticket, you want 10 lots populated, you want the most efficient trading experience possible. Or if you always use a market order, or if you always use a limit order, you want that type of order ticket to open up. So that's in the works now. I don't have a set time frame on it, but working diligently, and I'll keep you updated through this venue and probably via email as well on when that's added. It's very exciting. This is huge because once that's done, And this is why I'm very excited about it. We have a lot of members that have come to us over the last 8, 10, 12 months and tried to download the app from the App Store. And for about the last 11 months in Apple, we've only been able to have our spreads only app, so not binaries. And Google was a bit after that, but I want to say it was early spring when we've been able to only offer the spreads only app. Um, through Nadex Go, you can trade the binaries, you can trade spreads. It's got almost all of the functionality. The last thing where I'd really say where you can almost get rid of your old apps is when we get that functionality to have your settings added. Um, if you don't use default settings, so if you don't always have a lot size of 10, if you always use a lot size of 1 and always use a market order, then you ought to be good to go. Um, Alrighty, so how do you get it? By the way, I do want to mention one thing because I just see it in a question here. There has been an issue identified. It doesn't seem to affect Android, but it's basically an automatic logout if you switch to another app. It's sporadic and only seems to affect certain phones with certain versions. So we're working on that right now. Hopefully get that fixed. We've had a little bit of feedback and questions on that, so I do want to mention it. We should have that hopefully fixed in no time. But for the most part, I'd say 99% of users, the experience has been pretty flawless, which I'm very happy about. So how do you get it? Just go to nadex.com on your mobile device. You can apply for a demo or live account right from the homepage. If you already have one, just click login. It'll take you to the login screen. Go ahead and enter your login details. That hasn't changed. And then once you log in, save it to your home screen. The experience will be a lot better when you save it as an icon to your home screen. It'll look like any other app. Actually, I'll show you the logo in just a second or what the icon looks like. Or you can scan the following code using the camera on your phone. So there's the logo. We're going to be actually updating it a little bit. Just want to make sure it was identifiable. So you'll see where you see there in the center of the barcode, Nadex Go. By the way, this is being recorded. Everybody will get a link after it's gone through compliance and done all that great stuff. So if you want to see it or if you have trouble getting it, again, just give us a shout. All right, let's get to a little bit more meat. I don't want to run too long on this stuff. Oh yeah, hey, thanks for that comment, Daryl. By the way, if you are having the issue of not logging in or getting logged out automatically, if you it doesn't seem to be an issue if you're using Chrome on the iPhone. So if you can try that as a workaround as well. Great point on that one. So let's get to trading stupid. And yes, I have done this many times. And what is it? It is a lot of things actually. There are a lot of ways to trade stupid. What I want to clarify though is I'm not just talking about losing trades. I'm talking about profitable ones as well. Last week we talked a lot about tracking your trades. This also, the tracking of it helps you get around the stupid trades. But, just because a trade makes money doesn't mean it was the right thing to do, right? We're not ever looking at one trade. And the worst thing we can do is get rewarded when we're trading stupid. It's a sure enough way to blow out. So profitable trades can be stupid as well, right? If we're looking at our account, we've got to factor in our position size and risk to our account balance. If I've got $1,000 account, and this, by the way, this is rule of thumb. So if you're trading Nadex and futures and forex, trading stupid happens in all markets, right? So let's say you have $1,000 account at Nadex. I'm going to use an extreme example here, and you put $900 of risk on one trade. That trade might be successful. You might end up being profitable, but if you continue to use a high percentage of your account on a per trade basis, that's stupid because it is inevitable that eventually, in that case, luck runs out, right? You never want to be lucky in the markets. You want to have a plan. So factor in account size. I mean, some people won't risk more than, 2% or even 5% of their account. Good numbers to stick with. So factor in your position size and account balance. Chasing the market, right? I've been guilty of this, right? You've got a position setting up, and the market should go in your favor. Place the trade, boom, it goes against you, it never comes back, and then you decide to get into the next one. But instead of getting just into the next one at the same size, it's kind of like aggravation trading, I'll call it. You get frustrated and you go, oh no, it's got to go, it's got to go, and so then you double up or even more. Geez, I've got some horror stories about people that basically blew out like half of their account and then just decided to take the other half and throw it all in one trade, and then it was all gone. So you don't chase the market. That's just stupid, right? Don't double up. you've got to have a plan, right? You've got to have a plan for every trade. You've got to have an entry and a plan to exit. And if you don't have that, it's not always going to go in your favor, but have that plan and don't just click for the sake of clicking the button, or what we call over trading. People get excited. They think, I'm a trader. So what do? I got to trade. They get all excited about it. And many people have heard me talk about this before. I had a mentor. This goes back, to the early 2000s. Great guy. But he basically was very clear. If you're excited, if your heart's racing and your palms are sweating when you're trading, you're doing it wrong. Absolutely doing it wrong. Cash is a position as well. You don't have to be in the markets. Be patient. Wait for your opportunity. Patience is a virtue in trading as much as anything else. This is a very serious thing, right? People, I think, start to hear bells and whistles going off in their head. And I know when I first started out, that was me to the T. I was making up patterns in my mind just so I could place a trade. You need to be patient. Have your strategy. Work that strategy. Keep track of your strategy. Trading can be fun. It should be fun. It shouldn't be overly stressful. I mean, you don't want to have a grabber when you're trying to place a trade. That wouldn't be good for anybody. So, these are a few of the things that I see trading stupid. And maybe on a subsequent one, actually, you know what? I'll tell a story really quick. I have a good friend. He was a floor trader, very successful floor trader for many, many years. But he went to the screen several years ago. I mean, he's an industry professional. He went to the screen, and it was a different experience. You've probably heard this if you've studied. Actually, Marion, I did not learn that from Daryl. Actually, I'm quite a bit older than Daryl. Daryl might not have even been 15 when I learned that one, but I have learned a lot from him. That's for sure. So he kept having this difficulty. He would trade stupid. He knew better, but he couldn't help it. He was used to being able to push around the market when he could look people in the face and see where they were stressed, but he couldn't do that trading on the screen. And so what he did, and this is a true story, what he did is he was in the office, he went out and he bought one of those dog shock collars. And he strapped it to his thigh. And now I'm not recommending anybody do this. This is a bit extreme, but he claims it was because of his Greek father who said he could either clean the garage or get a beating, and he usually took the beating, so he's a little thick-headed. He literally, the deal with himself was if he traded stupid, he had to be honest with himself. He would, set it at 1, and he'd click the button, and he'd shock himself. And so he's in the office one day, and he's trading along, and everybody hears like this, oh, and so he's got to shock himself, and it's painful, but not too bad. But then the deal is he has to turn it up to 2. He has to keep increasing it for every stupid trade. And so he's going along, and all of a sudden you hear, oh no, and he's got it up to 2. He hits the button, and that's more of a yelp. It's really pretty painful. You can tell he's grimacing, but again, it took a lot to get through to him. So he turns it up to 3, and he's trading along and going along, and all of a sudden you hear this, oh no, and you guessed it, he's got to click the button again. But this time when he clicks the button, by the way, I guess these things aren't incremental; they can be actually exponential. He said it's a shame what we do to our animals for anybody that uses one of these, but clicks it again, flies out of his chair, falls on the floor, and he's rolling around, and of course everybody's laughing. By the way, speaking of trading stupid, he was almost very stupid because he was going to give somebody else the clicker to keep him honest. That just would have been bad because he couldn't have got that off his leg fast enough before somebody else was clicking it. Anyway, so he falls on the floor, runs down, gets up. He is literally sweating and shaking at this point, turns it up to 4. And he's got his hand on the mouse, and he's visibly distraught. And next thing you know, he shuts down his monitor, takes it off his leg, and just walks away, right? Now, again, I don't recommend anybody do this, but that did break him of his habit. And he keeps the shock collar. Next time I'm over at his office, I'll take a picture of it and maybe share it on one of these. He keeps it on his desk to remind him not to do that. Hopefully we can take other cues, right? We want to develop consistency in trading. We don't want to just be chasing or clicking the button, trading for the sake of trading, right? Have a strategy and a plan. So that's my take on trading stupid. I have done it. Thankfully, I never went to extreme measures to correct it. But think about these things. I know we have a lot of new members that haven't really traded a lot before, so we want to share that information. Oh, yeah. So now we're going to get to the questions, and I've got a stack of them. So if you hit the question box, I'll try to get get to all of them that I can. And excuse me, because I may actually take a look at the things. Charles asked a question about the 5-minute binary strike updated automatically. And Charles, I thought it should. I'm going to take a look at that and see. And if you could, just let me know if you're using Android or iPhone. But you should be able to get that where it's auto updating. I believe that was something we tested early on. But I'll double check that as well. And Jason is asking what is happening with NQ spreads. I mentioned to him a while back, I'm actually doing an analysis of all of our spread contracts. And we're looking at also at, we've had a lot of requests over the time to add longer durations. And so this is one of the things. And yes, Joe, it does work on iPad. That's the great thing about PWA, or Progressive Web App Technology. It works across the board. Let me take a look at that. Oh boy, wow, we've got questions flowing in here. So Jason, yeah, we're actually looking at, and I'd love to hear people's opinions on possibly doing a longer duration of spread as well. We've had requests for weeklies and even monthlies like we have in the Bitcoin spreads. I don't have a time frame on that. It's actually a pretty big project, but that is happening, and I'll keep you updated on that as well. How do I position size my trades? And in full disclosure, I want to let everybody know with regard to Nadex, I am not allowed to trade on Nadex. I always make that perfectly clear. I do trade. I trade quite a few equity options, as well as ETFs and things like that. So the position sizing is really consistent. I never risk more than 2% on any given trade. And what I want to make sure also along with that 2% is that I'm not trading highly correlated markets, right? Either highly correlated or highly inverse, right? Because if I'm trading, particularly in technicals, and let's say I'm using indicators or patterns, whatever I'm using, if I've got an inverse market, one that's tracking pretty much inverse, if I go long on one and short on the other, instead of taking 2% risk, I'm now taking 4%, right? Because it's basically the same position. So be wary of the correlated markets or inverse correlated markets. But 2% is the rule of thumb. I have heard some people will go up to 5%. Now, one of the things I want to mention too, like say on Nadex, where it gets really dangerous is if you're in like if you're trading like a futures contract at 20 to 1, say you're trading oil at 20 to 1 in the outright futures market, and you've got leverage, and you've got to use a stop, but that stop is no guarantee that that's going to be filled. So you get a big market move. And you can actually lose a lot more than that, 2% you designated. Now, if you've got 2% and it goes to 4%, not as big a deal. But if you've got 5% and it goes to 10%, that's pretty big. Now, one thing great with Nadex is, you can never get slipped. You can never assume more risk than you had at the outside. I'm gonna let's see. I'm gonna be taking a look at because it looks like for the 5-minute binary chart. It's not refreshing for everybody, but some people say it is. So, you know what, guys, if you could, I'm going to give you the town hall at Nadex thing again, because I work very closely with the development team. If you could, to shoot me what phone you're using, if you know the operating system, if you're using Safari or Chrome, if it's on an Android, that'd be very interesting information, because, these are the things, it should work the same across all. But these are things we want to detect and get them corrected for everybody as quickly as possible. But let's see. Oh, my queue is filling up fast here. Have a request for the indicators, education on all the indicators at Nadex. So all of the indicators that we offer on our charts, yes, that is coming. I'm actually looking at redoing our entire education center. That's a project that's in the works. Going to be adding a lot more information. Going to be working a lot with our third-party educators as well on strategies. As I mentioned earlier, we get a lot of people that are newer to trading, and even more that maybe have traded a lot but are new to Nadex and really need to understand how our contracts work. So we're going to have lots of modules. One of those things that won't be in phase 1, but it will be, I'm going to have videos available on every indicator offered on Nadex, basically what they are, how they're designed. You need to know the math behind it, what they look like on the screen, and how they're used. Now, some indicators can be used multiple times. Also, what type of indicator is it? If you're using indicators, you need to understand, are you using a momentum indicator or using a trend indicator? Because if you have, say, 4 indicators and they're all momentum indicators, they could all be telling you the same thing. It may not work. So you may want to use something that indicates trend, volatility, momentum, things like that. So yeah, that's going to be coming. There's going to be modules on all of that. Got a question here from Gabriel. If it's an investment company, and how do I register? So Nadex is an exchange. We're unique in that we're an exchange designed for the individual trader. I would call it more trading than investing, right? And I think of investing, I think of things that I'm going to take into retirement or hold for a while, my 401k and stuff like that. That's investing. I'm much more of a trader, and that's how Nadex contracts are designed for the active individual trader. That's what's unique, is that we're not designed for the institution. We're designed for the individual. Alrighty, flying through these questions here. Oh yeah, so I'm going to flip back on the slide deck here a little bit. So Scott wants to know where you can find the new mobile app. And so you can scan this code. I'll leave that up there for a second. Or you can just go to nadex.com on your mobile device. Hey, Keith, the question is, as far as indicators, will you be adding more? I'm sure we can. We've got the flexibility with the charts. The thing is, and this kind of goes to the feedback. So, what indicators do you want to see? I know there's proprietary indicators out there. I know that there's all sorts of structured indicators. There's literally thousands. So if you let us know specifically, and I'll keep note of that. Thanks, Keith. Keith is requesting the ADX. Alrighty, a couple questions about stop orders. Will we be adding them? We had looked a while back at some other advanced order types, also things like basically like if-then orders. So if an order gets filled, then you automatically have a limit. The difficulty with stop orders and stop limit orders, right? Particularly with the binary option, which is where a great deal of our volume is the nonlinearity of the market. What I mean by that is when, as I mentioned, slippage in the underlying markets. So with a stop order, you can get slipped. Now that's bad enough in an underlying market. I mean, you look at like something like the a couple years ago when the Swiss National Bank pulled the peg from the euro and the market moved like 40%, and people that had a stop order and thought they were going to be losing 300 lost something like $15,000. Stops on a binary, while the risk is always going to be limited, right, to either 0 or 100, depending on if you're long or short. I did see a firm put stops on binaries once, and the difficulty was, and particularly as I mentioned, we have a lot of newer traders, and so we want to basically make sure we service them correctly. Let's say I bought a binary at 80. I'm doing something like a premium collection strategy. If I put a stop, say, at 60, and I'm sitting there, and this would be particularly relevant just prior to expiration, right? The difference between one tick can be the difference between 0 and 100, and it doesn't have to tick like 80, 79, 78, 77, 76. It can literally go from 80 to 10. And so we've had that request. It's very difficult on a binary option because it's hard for me to justify it. Now, if we look at something like spreads that are much more linear, I did see a company that had stops on binary options for about a month. And it did not work out well. It didn't work out well for anybody because you thought you were protected, right? And that's the whole point of a stop. You think you're protected, but a stop isn't guaranteed fill. It's not like a limit order that is, this price or better, right? And so if you do a stop limit order, the difficulty with that is, if say it drops below and then it becomes a limit order, so if it pops back up, it'll close out. If a binary goes from 80 to 10 and then 0, it never comes back up, and they just move so fast. And on spreads, one of the unique things, and one of the things I actually, when I was looking at the structure of contracts for Nadex, I liked that you actually couldn't get stopped out. And I believe we have a video in our archive on the Nadex website using the ultimate hedge strategy to trade spreads. And basically, you're using a combination of spreads where you actually have lower risk than if you were using a stop, but you never get stopped out. So I would definitely check that out. And you know what? I'm going to switch over there and show everybody where that's at. So let me just go, in case you need it one more time. Whoop, I guess I'm not. I was just going to give you the email address one more time, townhall@nadex.com. So let me just go here. If you go to our Learning Center, now one of the things when I'm updating this Learning Center is, and this has come from feedback, and Christopher says hedging is better. Um, I believe so too, because particularly newer traders, um, getting stopped out is very frustrating. I mean, at this point, you know what? I think you should look at losses as a learning experience. They're a tuition you're paying to learn the markets, and you should learn from them. But it is frustrating, and I've seen way too many people trade stupid after getting stopped out. We see like we have courses, webinars, videos, trade examples. We're going to be consolidating this so you have one spot really to go to find all this information. But under the webinars tab, you can click on demand and upcoming. So I'm just going to click on demand. So on demand is anything you can view right now. You can just watch it now. Upcoming is anything we're going to be doing live. So let me just flip through here. I believe the Ultimate Hedge Strategy. This one's presented by John Skelton. Second week in a row, I've had John's picture up there on the screen. He had a birthday last week, so happy birthday, John. So check this out. And actually check out a lot of our content. We have a lot of content out there. You can filter it by all sorts of things. What markets do you trade? Do you trade binary options? Do you trade spreads, forex, commodities, indices? Are you looking for something more basic, new and getting into it? Are you looking for what's going on in the markets, market analysis? So use this as a resource. Also, if there's content you're looking for, send it to townhall@nadex.com. That actually goes directly to me and my counterpart, Chip. I know a lot of the people, I see a lot of familiar faces here, have met Chip. Awesome guy. So we get these and we take these, very seriously, and we want to provide the content that's important to you. So let's see. I'm going to go through and Ahmad asks about a specific risk management webinar. I'm not sure. I believe we have a few on building a trading plan. I'm actually going to be putting one together that's going in the Nadex website, which Trading Stupid is part of. But you know what? I'll take a look through our archive. I mean, there's pages and pages of video that's available. But we're definitely going to be having, and that's one thing. Right now, in our education center, on the webinars, we have a lot of information about trading in general. So there's things like trading psychology and things like that that are already available. What we don't have in, like, say, our educational courses or the videos on our website. By the way, I'm going to show you videos real quick. So if you want to do how-to, right? So if you're new to Nadex and you want to learn anything about how to do anything on the platform, go to the how-to section under videos. But it's very Nadex-centric. What we're going to be adding and what I really want to build out are more diverse topics for trading in general. How do you build a trading plan? I know we have that webinar in the archive already. What are the principles of risk management? How about trading psychology? So we want to give you all the tools you need to increase your chances of success. Let's see. I've got a whole queue here. So I'm sure I'm missing somewhere. Oh, here's one from Steven. I've heard discussed but not seen that have an option about trading during the night. Yeah, absolutely. You can trade about most contracts about 23 hours a day. I believe we also have a webinar called Trading Part-Time at Night in our archive. So yeah, you can do that, trade overnight. Nadex, like I said, is designed for the individual, and we recognize that a lot of our members have day jobs. They're not full-time traders necessarily. That's what we wanted to do. Was our goal was to really open up the markets to everyone, not just leave them, the bastions of huge institutions. We wanted to provide fair, equal access to the markets for individuals that have, risk capital that they're looking to speculate with. So yeah, definitely overnight. Is it possible with your app done? Yeah. So Nadex is an exchange, but you actually become a member directly with the exchange. So you would use either our progressive web app, the Nadex Go, that we spoke about a little bit earlier. You can do it through our web platform at nadex.com. You can just log in. But yeah, I mean, we recognize our members have other jobs. People have lives outside that. We have meetings during the day. Um, you know, maybe we're night owls and we're up at 3 a.m. There's opportunities to trade throughout the evening. But that's a great question. Ta-ta-da. Covered that one. And let's see here. I'm running a little bit long, but just want to make sure I'm getting a lot of these. Uh, I was. Keith has a question as far as adding more strike prices. Um, I'm not. I'm not familiar with that. If a market has a really big move, like we saw earlier this week, and the market goes out of the strike range, we'll typically add more strike prices. But there's quite a few on most markets. But happy to take that as a suggestion, specifically if there's a specific time frame um, uh, that you're interested in, and we're actually analyzing those as well. Um, Obviously markets change, so we need to change with them, right? A market that was moving on average 30 points a day in 2013 might be moving 80 points a day now. So we always have to keep up on top of that. Obviously can't do it every day. We go nuts doing that. But yeah, if you're looking at more strikes or have a suggestion on that, specific market and time frame would be great. And Jason, yeah, about stop orders. Um, that's something that we had looked at in the past, but with binaries, it's very difficult. I won't go through the whole reasoning why again because we're running a bit out of time. But yeah, I mean, potentially we could look at something I think on spreads, which are very linear. But again, I think if you look at like something like the ultimate hedge strategy, which uses two spreads um, to mitigate the risk. Where you still never get stopped out, you're basically buying time to be right. Probably actually taking on less risk than you would be with a stop. Um, just a really good trade. And maybe Jason, as far as finding that hedge, like I mentioned, we're looking at the spread contracts, the ranges, how they're utilized. So that should be hopefully improving for you a little bit as well. Cool, man. This half hour flies by. You guys are a great group and keeping me hustling. I know that I've missed a lot of these. I really appreciate the participation. It amazes me every week when we literally see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and actually a lot of people coming back. So I must not be irritating everybody after all. Um, so glad you could come back. We want to keep you updated on what's going on in the exchange, but we also want to hear from you. So the Nadex Go app. Click on feedback. Give us your feedback for features and functionality. It's very, we want two-way flow. I don't ever want to just be talking to you. We need your suggestions. We need your feedback. That's how we improve. We've come a long way over the years. Those of you that have been with us since 2010, 2011, 2013, we've added a lot more liquidity. The cost of trading has actually gone down substantially when you consider the bid offer spread by adding additional liquidity and market makers. We've had great growth thanks to people like you and your feedback. You help make us better. Um, you know, I can say I'm happy, but I can never say I'm satisfied because I know we've always got a lot of work to do and we've got to stay on top of it. So thank you all for your support. Really appreciated. Be another town hall here in a couple of weeks. I'll be providing updates. And I'll take this one last question by Keith. Will the app that we have now still continue to work until we get acclimated? Yes. Do not delete your current apps. There's still some functionality on there that you may want. Um, I'll keep you updated when Nadex Go has all of the functionality that is really essential for trading that the other ones do. But keep your old apps for the time being. They're not mutually exclusive. So if there's some feature or functionality that you have in the old app that isn't quite there yet, um, you know, definitely stick with that. So at some point they will stop working, right? We can't maintain all of those, but that's not for foreseeable future. So thank you all very much. It's been very enjoyable. I appreciate the questions, and I will talk to everybody soon.